Good morning. Um, I'm Shimi, and I spend most of my time studying and thinking about stuff. And today will probably be the most serious conversation we've had over the whole issue of church and state. And I think today will, to many of you, add context to all my rantings and ravings. Before today, I will express opinion on various issues, but I think we need to bring context to my reservations and concerns about what is happening in South Africa and around the world. And it's the first time I make a passionate plea for you not just to watch this video, but to send a copy to your pastor, send a copy to your friends. This is a call to the Christian community to arise and to shine. This is a call for us to throw down the gauntlet, really, to go to war. Satan has cleverly given us and Satan has given us a gospel that makes us timid, a gospel that makes us pale in the face of opposition. And what is unfortunate is many have embraced this gospel. Many have run with a gospel that prepares God's people for good times. And the truth of the matter is the time in which we go, we must be preparing for bad times, really, if you understand what the scriptures have to say. You must have heard of the New World Order. You must have heard of that. You must have heard of New Age. You must have heard of that. You must have heard of the United Nations 10-point plan. And don't forget that South Africa is a member state of the United Nations. You must have heard of that. But here is what you have not heard of. A woman called Alice Bailey. Alice Bailey lived in 1880 and died in 1949. And she was a writer, lecturer on neo-theosophy. Neo-theosophy is a teaching that embraces all religions. It's leaned more towards Buddhism, Hinduism. But she was a champion for that. She moved to the USA in 1907, where she spent the rest of her life. She was the high priestess and prophetess of the New Age movement. She was a very prolific author on occultism and founded an international esoteric movement. She was heavy. She married a 32-degree Mason that made her spouse a very prominent man. And she wrote a lot of commentary. But she hated the influence the Christian Judeo culture had on society. And she was the first person to coin in the term New Age. And what was implied by New Age was that there would come she envisaged a time in society where society shall live free of the Christian and Judaism influence as embraced by a lot of Christians and Jews. So she coined in the term New Age, that I look forward to that New Age where Christianity's influence and the Christian-Judeo influence on society shall be diminished, and religions shall come and express themselves equally. Now, this went before the Second World War. She wrote a 10-point plan. She had a 10-point plan that she tried to sell to the nations, and which did not do well, because the nations did not see her point. And she was saying, unless we rid ourselves of the Christian influence in society, the Christian Judeo influence in society, we will never be free. Now, she was patient, and I hope a lot of Christians are as patient as Alice Bailey was. And when the nations ultimately 20 years later went to war, something came into play there. Because the nations at war were your historically traditional Christian nations. Germany, England, France. So she ultimately caught the attention of the world. That look, the Christian world is at war with itself. And people started taking it seriously. And post the Second World War, they saw a society free of the Christian influence, free of the Christo-Judeo influence there, as encapsulated in the Bible. Now, that's when the United Nations began to set up. And later on, the United Nations has adopted Alice Bailey's 10-point plan. And its member states, in some way or the other, you are going to see how deep South Africa is in this. And I'm going to tell you exactly why I'm saying this, and especially when you come to the last point. Its member states have divided their agenda and they're pushing it hard from different departments, government institutions. And to some extent, they're winning. And I'm going to show you why the 10th point is important and why the South African government needs us to do what they're planning. So the purpose of the 10-point plan really was to change the Judeo-Christian tradition or to redeem the nations from its influence. Simple. Eradicate the influence the Judeo-Christian belief has on nations, and let's free the world. Now, every member state of the United Nations submits and subscribes to the 10-point plan. And the plan was very simple. One, take God and prayer out of the educational system. I'm not talking fantasies here. You can Google this and you can get it. I've taught it around in our ministries. Fortunately, when we have time within our church circles, we don't talk prosperity. We arm the church for persecution. And she said, take God and prayer out of the educational system. She said, change curriculum to ensure that children are free from the bondage of the Christian culture. Why? Because children go to school to be equipped to face life. They are willing to trust and they are willing to value what is being given to them. So if you take God out of the education system, they will unconsciously form a resolve that God is not necessary to face life. And they will focus on those things that the school counts worthy to be passed on. They will look at God as an addition, if one can afford the addition. And look at the educational system now. They took prayer out of schools, and around the world, people are pursuing this. The second point, she says, the 10-point plan, which is a plan of the United Nations. I'm prepared to be sued over this and to stand in any court of law and say the things I'm saying to you now. Because South Africa is a member state, and South Africa is aggressively pursuing the ideals of the United Nations New World Order 10-point plan. The second thing Alice Bailey suggested that the United Nations adopted says, reduce parental authority over the children. She says, break the communication between parents and children. Why? So that the parents don't pass on their Christian traditions to their children. Liberate children from the bondage of their parents' traditions. And you know, with all New World Order interventions and New Age philosophies, the government is the new parent. The government becomes the new parent. Make the parent irrelevant and let the government be the new parent. Let the children not inherit their parents' belief. Let government determine what the children's belief should be. And the 3-point plan, the third point is, she said, destroy the Judeo-Christian family structure or the traditional Christian family structure. You know, when you talk of Judeo-Christian structure, there are a lot of cultures and philosophies and beliefs shared between Judaism and Christianity. It says, no, destroy the family structure, the father, the mother, the child. Destroy that structure. She said, it is oppressive. And says and that the family is the core of the nation. If you break the family, you break the nation. Liberate the people from the confines of the structure. And I think you can see the picture now. And right now, if you look 40, 50 years ago, many people came from traditional families. The father is the head and the mother there is helping the father and the children are growing up. But now, feminism came in and a lot of other things. We are fighting patriarchy. All that is the strategy of the enemy. Because if you break a family, you break a nation. And the fourth point, she said, if sex is free, then make abortion legal and make it easy. Are you following, child of God? Hey, make sex free, then make abortion legal and make it easy. Make it easy for people to engage in sex. Right now, we looked in shock when the South African government said 12-year-olds can have sex without parental guidance, and 16-year-olds, and let children have sex among themselves, and make abortion legal, and make it easy to have, and you did not hear more. Let's go to point 5. I'm going to make my point very soon. Make divorce easy and legal. Free people from the concepts of marriage for life. Does it seem like they're winning? Hey? Does it seem like they're winning? Now, and point 6 says, make homosexuality an alternative lifestyle. Right now, we hear that Bishop Maponga is going to court 2 weeks from now, on the 19th, for hate speech. Because she quoted directly out of the Bible, Romans 1, and welcome to the new age. Welcome to the new age. And they could not have done that without the cooperation of your pastor, of your bishop, of your presiding apostle, and without your cooperation. And they've cleverly brought about situations that have nothing to do with the real agenda. And Satan has conveniently planted issues. Listen to me. Planted issues within our circles that make us incensed. And I'm going to show you now, when you come to the last point, why they want the church to cooperate. She says, make homosexuals an alternative lifestyle. Alice Bailey preached that sexual enjoyment is the highest pleasure in humanity. No one must be denied, and no one must be restricted on how to enjoy themselves. People should be allowed in whichever way they choose they want, whether it is homosexuality or incest or bestiality, as long as the two agree. You realize that now that Canada has legalized bestiality. Canada is saying people can have sex with animals. Hey? And the 7th point, she says, debase art. Make art run mad. Alice Bailey understood that the arts are one of the primary keys to change culture. How? He says, promote new forms of art which will corrupt and defile the imagination of people. Because art is the language of the spirit. That which is inside, you can bring out in painting, in music, in drama. And look at the quality, spirituality, and the message of the artist on the people, and use it to manipulate them. She was a clever woman. She was a priestess in the New Age movement. And she says, point 8, use media to promote and change mindsets. In the olden days, in a traditional and historical way, media would just report on events. No, media now is molding philosophy. It says, use media. Use media. She said the greatest channel you need to use to change human attitude is use media. Use the press. Use radio. Use TV. Use cinema. You can tell today how successful they've been in implementing this plan over the last 50 years. And you just have to look at what is happening around us. Use media. What the media says goes. A lot of people just follow it. Look at how TV is used now to promote all these values. And if you channel Hop now, you see that all the soapies at any given time are following a simple and a single agenda. That is not coincidental. They know what they're doing. And she says in point 9, create an interfaith movement. 9 and 10 are going to make you weep. Alice Bailey says, create an interfaith movement. I know a lot of men you respect, a lot of men who used to work with God, are now champions of the interfaith. And there is a reason to that. He says, Alice Bailey wrote, promote other faiths to be at par with Christianity and break this thing about Christianity as being the only way to heaven. By that, Christianity will be pulled down and other faiths promoted. She said, promote the importance of man in determining his own future and destiny. That's where humanism came in. And tell man he has the right to choose what he wants to be and he can make it happen. He has the right to determine his course. He says, do this. And while this may be people's constitutional rights, not everything in the constitution is godly. So she said that. Create an Now, this is scary. Point 9 is scary. Because right now you look at South Africa, you realize that people who are perceived as God's men are at the forefront. And when God's men step into that zone, Satan promotes them. They become chairman. They don't become some fringe member of those committees. So your pastor, your dear bishop could be at the center of the United Nations 10-point plan by Alice Bailey. And you could be running around and saying freedom of religion and freedom of this and this. And all along, your pastor is now an agent of the enemy. This shows that the church has been captured. We need to hashtag church capture. And maybe we need to pay more attention to the capture of the church than if the government is concerned about the capture of the state. Because I asked a question yesterday. Do you think your man of God is silent on this issue or silenced? I asked a question yesterday. The chairman of the Sierra Commission in South Africa says God does not talk. And I've challenged men of God openly that you talk, people, that God talks. Why are you silent on that? Maybe we can disagree on whether the church can be regulated or not. I hope you shall. I hope you will not after listening to what I have to say. But can we disagree on the fact that God doesn't speak? Hey? But they're quiet because Satan knows exactly what he's doing, and a lot of them are not silent. The South African elders and bishops and spiritual fathers and fathers in the faith, they are not silent. They've been silenced. So Alice Bailey says, the United Nations have adopted, no, promote interfaith. Put money into interfaith. Drown out the voice of Christ and make Jesus a way, another way. You understand what I'm saying? And listen to the last point. She says, get governments to make all these laws and get the church to endorse these changes. Get governments to make all these laws, and Alice Bailey says, let the church endorse it. I pondered this. Why was it important in the minds of a Satanist? Why was it important in the minds of a demoniac person like that to advise governments that after you make these laws, have the church endorse them? Then my mind wandered to the words of Jesus Christ in the book of Matthew 16. I shall build my church, and the gates of hell will never overcome it. I will build my church, and the gates of hell will never overcome it. And when Satan had an encounter with Jesus in the wilderness, he says something that most of you ignored. He says, all these have been given unto me, and I shall give them to you if you bow. The church cannot be corrupted without its cooperation, because the devil knows that the church has authority on earth. Let me tell you, there is a reason the Sierra Commission ran to preachers. There is a reason. And the reason is they know that the church, according to the book of Thessalonians, has a restrictive effect on the full manifestation of an antichrist spirit. The church has a restrictive effect. Jesus says the gates of hell will never prevail against it. So you can never corrupt the church without its cooperation. And Jesus declared the church the light and the salt of the earth. And you can never dispel light with darkness. Light dispels darkness. What do? Get the cooperation of the light. Listen to me, child of God. I stand my ground. We should refuse. We should refuse to cooperate to any extent with the government's initiative to regulate religion. If the government could do this without us, they would have done it without us. But the authority lies with the church. And if they cannot corrupt us, they can't control us. They cannot. The church worldwide is the biggest non-governmental organization. As I said to you yesterday, in South Africa alone, 78% of people claim to be Christian. The church is the biggest non-governmental organization in the world. And these governments know that if you can't get the cooperation of the church, you can never control society. Now, I've detailed to you the 10-point plan. Take it, talk to your pastor, check it, Google it, research it, find out if I lied to you. Because today I just wanted to add context to my arguments. I wanted you to see the bigger picture. I wanted you to see that what everybody's doing in that little corner is not sporadic. It's not incidental. It's planned. But here is my point. If they can't get our cooperation, they can never corrupt us. And if they can't corrupt us, they can't corrupt our nations. God says in the book of 2 Chronicles chapter 7, if I send disaster upon a nation and there's turmoil and there is trouble, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, turn away from the wicked ways, I will heal their land. The church has been given the authority. And the government knows that all these changes that they can't get us to endorse will never go from a spiritual perspective. Alice Bailey was into mysticism. She understood their spirituality. And she knew that unless the 10th point was driven in, there is no way they were going to corrupt our nations without our cooperation. So church, wake up. I am closing by saying, I'm going to be sending more of these videos. I'm closing by saying, it is not incidental that the devil through the system of the world seeks our cooperation. These men of God who have been co-opted into these peer review structures, into the interfaith structures, have been corrupted by the devil because they love money, they love power, and they're people of compromise. And in any past persecution of the church, historically speaking, they've never been able to clamp us down unless they were traitors among us. Go and ask the church in China. Go and ask the church in Russia. Go and ask the church everywhere. They have used some of us to oppress the rest of us. I am saying, if we stand in South Africa and say we refuse to cooperate, and we go down on our knees and pray, and we ask that God raises men of boldness, men of conviction, men who have not been corrupted by the love of money, men who have not been corrupted by love for power, men who have not been corrupted by the obsession with being loved by earthly governments. They know that if we pray that way, they will never rule our nation. Refuse to cooperate with the Sierra Commission. Let us see if they can oppress us without our cooperation. It will never happen because Jesus says the gates of hell will not prevail against the church. We are pressing on. We want to take this matter to the Constitutional Court because we can't just pray. And somebody says, yeah, but the problem with you Christians, you just pray. I said, no. Nobody who truly prays only prays. Never. The way prayer is, you can't truly pray and only pray. We need to dig deep into our pockets. We have given millions to these charlatans who call themselves men of God. We need to take that money, put it into hands of committed lawyers. They don't necessarily have to be Christian lawyers. They have to be constitutional experts. We need to fight. We need to drive back the frontiers of darkness. We have to resist. Look at what happened yesterday in the Bloemfontein Supreme Court. The church won the battle to keep prayers in certain schools. We need to press on. My name is Shimi, and I pray that this gives sense. May the Lord really bless and keep you.